Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to use every feature on the Pixel Pro TW283 remote wireless trigger. Now I'll be using this on my Pen F, but if you have the right cable, this will work with just about every camera brand out there. And if you find these videos helpful, consider buying me a coffee or making a small donation in the links below because they help me to make more videos like this for everyone. So let's get started. Alright, this is the wireless remote trigger system that I use. It's the Pixel Pro TW283. And basically you get two pieces, right? You get the receiver, the transmitter, and then you get a cable with it. And this trigger is compatible with a lot of different cameras. It's just when you buy it, you have to make sure you get the one that comes with the right cable. And what I did is, the first one I ever bought was the one for the EM10 Mark II. And the EM10 Mark II has like this proprietary plug on it that goes into the camera. But on the other end is a standard 3.5 millimeter plug. And this plugs into the receiver like so. And what I did over time is when I got my EM1 Mark II and my OM1, I kind of put together another cable from just ones I had laying around. But this is the standard 3.5 millimeter jack that plugs into the receiver. And then on this end, I found a 2.5 millimeter jack that plugs into like my OM1 and my EM1 Mark II, my EM1 Mark III, etc. So I didn't have to buy a whole second trigger. All I had to do was get the cable, and you can buy the cable separately for $7 or $8 instead of spending like $40 on the whole nother trigger setup. Now this trigger has a lot of function. You know, it has its basic remote trigger function. It also has a bulb function, a self timer function, and an intervalometer. All of this is built into this trigger. But let me show you how to set it up. So basically, you just has a little hot shoe here, and you just put that on top of the camera. Plug in the 3.5 millimeter jack, and then on the Pen F it's here on the side, and you'll see two plugs here. The black plug is the one that takes the proprietary plug here, and just plug it in. Alright, now the radio trigger can operate on several different channels, so if you're in an area with other photographers using the same branded trigger, you want to change your channel so you're not interfering with each other. And it's very easy to do. You just push and hold both of these buttons at the same time, and you'll see channel start blinking, and then you can change this, say, let's go to channel 6. And then you push both of these again to set it, and it stops blinking. And then on the remote trigger, what you have to do is go over using the D-pad until you see the CH icon down here in the bottom. And then you push the center button here on the D-pad, and then you can just kind of scroll up and down using the D-pad. So we'll go to channel 6 and do set. And then I'll just do a quick test. And I'll see that this light lights up and this light lights up, and that lets me know that the two are talking to each other. Alright, now that we have the channel set, let's start with the most basic function, and that's just a remote shutter release. So we need to change the trigger to the remote shutter release function. And we need to scroll over until we see the little square icon in here. So now the trigger is in remote shutter release mode. And then we need to set the camera into the proper shutter mode as well, because and you'll see why. So we'll go into the camera, and you can see I'm in just standard mechanical shutter. I can also do anti-shock or silent shutter, but I'm going to leave it in mechanical shutter for the demo. This button here, this is the trigger button. You can half press this button, and that'll initiate the focus, right? Assuming you're in autofocus mode. And then you can fully press to take the picture. So you see you get a green confirmation on the trigger to let you know they're communicating. And then I can hear the camera beep when it's locked focus, and then I can fully push to take the picture. And then you'll see that the LEDs flashed red to let you know it sent a shutter trigger versus an autofocus trigger. Now it's important that you keep in mind the shutter mode on the camera versus the shutter mode on the trigger. Because if I want to do continuous shooting, for example, I'll put the camera into a continuous shutter mode like continuous low. But if I push and hold the trigger button here, it's only going to fire one shot because it only sent briefly a shutter signal to the camera. So what I need to do is put the remote trigger into continuous shutter mode just by clicking right on the D-pad, and then you'll see the little multi-box icon here. So now when I push and hold, you'll see the red light stays on, and the camera is continuing to fire. Now this shutter mode on the trigger will effectively work for bulb mode as well. So let me show you that. So I'm going to put the camera into bulb mode. And now if I push and hold the shutter button, the shutter will stay open for as long as I'm holding this button down on the remote trigger. And then when I let go, it'll close the shutter on the trigger. So it's effectively working in bulb mode, but this trigger has a specific bulb mode that helps you, okay? So let's go over to bulb mode, and you'll see the little word bulb under here, as well as a timer on top. And I'm already in bulb mode on the camera, so the difference is when I push this shutter button now, I can let go. So even though I've let go, you can see this is blinking, telling me that it's continually sending to hold the shutter open. And then I have a timer here, so if I want to do a 15-second exposure, I can push it again to stop right when I get to 15 seconds. So it's very handy. So I can push it, let go, let's do a 5-second this time, and then stop. Alright, now this trigger also has a self-timer function. So let's go into that by clicking right, and we'll see the little self-timer icon. And we have two numbers here. We have the number of seconds of the delay for the self-timer, and then the number of shots that we want the camera to take. So let's just start with a simple one. Let's just set up a 5-second timer to take one picture. So I'm going to press the set button in the middle here of the D-pad, and I'm going to crank the timer up to 5 seconds. And then remember about when I said you have to be conscious of the shutter mode on the camera. I'm still in bulb mode. I don't want to be in bulb mode. So let's put this into aperture priority, and then make sure that the shutter mode is set to single shot. Alright, now let's go ahead and push the button. There's a 5-second delay, and it takes one picture, and then the timer resets. Now the other number here, the number of shots, what this does is it's sort of like an interval, but not quite. So let's go over here. I press the set button, and then I can click left on the D-pad, and I can set the number of shots. So let's set this to 4, for example, and this can go up to 99, and click set. So now what's going to happen is the shutter is going to wait 5 seconds, fire the camera, and then wait 1 second and fire the camera again, wait another second, fire the camera again, and do that 3 more times for a total of 4 shots. So basically it's a 5-second delay and then a 1-second interval. So let me show you that. So I can let go. And that's it. So we took 4 pictures. Now this trigger also has an intervalometer function in it. It's a little complicated, but I'll try and walk you through it. So let's click over to the right. This is the channel changing mode. Alright, so this is the first screen for the intervalometer. And up here in the corner you'll see the word, it says delay. So basically this is the self-timer part. It's going to wait 10 seconds before it starts firing the camera. And then let's go to the next page. Now it says the word long up here. And this is basically, you set how long do you want to hold the shutter button down, meaning a full press, and have the shutter open on the camera. Now if you're like an aperture priority, it's not going to matter too much what you set this to. It's only going to, the camera's only going to fire once. But generally, if you're doing a time-lapse videos, let's say you want to capture the sunset and do a time-lapse, you can set this to 1 second, have your camera in aperture priority, single shot mode, and set the, 1 second is good. And then the next screen says interval. Right now I have this set to 5-minute intervals. That's probably a little bit too long for a sunset. I would change this to, say, 1 minute. And you can do minutes, seconds, hours. The 1 minute's good. Let's go to the next page. And this is saying how many times do you want to perform this operation. So let's say we want to do record the sunset for 30 minutes, and we're doing 1 minute intervals. I would want to take 30 pictures. So I'll just set this to 30, like so. Now the next screen is, you'll see the word repeat. This is another like self-timer function where it's going to wait 1 second in this case before it repeats everything we just set. So idea, and this is more useful for astrophotography, but typically you would set this for 10 seconds and then go to the next page, and then how many times do you want it to repeat? And you might set this to, 3 times, for example. And then we're back to, and then we're back to the shutter mode, but we don't need to repeat this operation. We can just do it once. And go back here and check. We don't care about that because we set the repeat to 1. We got 30 shots, 1 minute each. 1 second, hold the shutter, wait 10 seconds. So that makes sense, right? We're going to do a sunset time lapse. We're going to wait 10 seconds before we take the first picture. We're going to hold the shutter button down for 1 second. We're going to wait 1 minute before we take the next picture. And we're going to do that 30 times. If we were going to repeat this feature, we would wait 10 seconds before we repeat what we just set. And we would do it X number of times. In this case, we only want to do it once. Alright, now to start the intervalometer sequence, you don't want to push the shutter button, because all that's going to do is fire the camera once. You want to push the play button here to start the intervalometer, because we set up a whole sequence of events potentially, right? So we just push the play button, and then you'll see our 10-second delay, and it should take the first picture after that 10 seconds. And now we have a 1 minute interval, so now it's going to count down by 1 minute, but over here is your counter saying that we've taken the one picture, so now we're down to 29. It takes another picture, this will go down to 28, and so on. And if you need to stop the intervalometer process, you can just hit the play button again, which will stop it, and then it resets. Now in astrophotography, we typically have exposures of 60 seconds up to maybe 500 seconds, 600 seconds, whatever. You can set that on this trigger, but you need to make sure your camera's in bulb mode. So I'll just go ahead and quickly put it in bulb mode. Yeah, we're in bulb mode. Now what I can do is, we're at 10-second delay because we're in the delay mode as indicated up here. We'll go over here, long. It says long here. This is how long the shutter button is going to be held down for. So all we have to do is change that to say 1 minute. Or if we're doing 4-minute exposures, we can set it to 4 minutes and click OK there. And then go to the next screen. The interval will be 1 minute. Typically you don't need to do that. You probably want to do maybe 10-second intervals, right? Or 10-second delay between each shot. And we're going to do that probably 100 times, 200 times, whatever. See how high it'll go. Yeah. So we might do 103 shots of 4-minute exposures, right? And we're not going to repeat this, so we'll skip that. And we're done. And then I would just push play to start the sequence. Alright, so that's all of the features of this great little trigger. And there's a couple other things I want to mention. There's a 3.5mm jack here. So what you can do is you can plug your cable directly into this and then use this as a wired trigger instead of a wireless trigger system. So this would generally be more reliable for very long exposures like time-lapse and astrophotography, because basically you're eliminating another point of failure, right? The receiver. So this gives you a little more direct connect to the camera. Now just a couple more tips and reminders is be very conscious again of the shutter mode on your camera matches the shutter mode on the trigger. Otherwise you might get unexpected results. And I think there could be some creative uses for mixing and matching the shutter modes between the two cameras. Because the Olympus cameras in particular, they have other features like live comp, live bulb, live ND, all kinds of crazy things where maybe there might be some kind of neat combination you could do to get some interesting effects. But be very conscious of that. The other thing is, make sure that your camera has not gone to sleep before the trigger fires off the first shot, because sometimes you're spending all your time setting up the trigger and your camera goes to sleep, right? So when it goes to fire the first shot, all it's going to do is wake up the camera. It's not going to actually take a picture, right? So that's happened to me a few times. I'm like, why didn't it take a picture? And then I look and it's like, oh, because the camera went to sleep and all the trigger did was wake it up. So be conscious of that as well. All right, and that's all I have for today. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, consider buying me a coffee or make a small donation in the links below because they are greatly appreciated and they help me to continue making videos like this for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.